this thing again. So today I'm just going to be driving around a little bit, looking at air-fuel ratio while I'm cruising around and a couple wide open runs, and just to kind of see how it goes. So there's going to be quite a few shots of just kind of cruising, driving, looking at air-fuel ratio, hoping for a 14.7, that's the goal, and some wide open runs and just kind of watching to see what happens. Enjoy it. So here's the scoop. I think I heard it a little bit on that last little brake stand pull that we did. When I was tuning it, I was tuning up to like 5,200 RPM range. That's kind of where I was stopping. Even the First pull that I did, we got some wheel spin, and during the brake stand, the RPM shot up pretty high into a range that I didn't really tune yet. Kind of leaned it out a little bit. Came back because it started to misfire. Came back, started pulling the plugs. I pulled the number 3 and the number 1, and then I started thinking, I'm like, if anything's going to happen, it's going to happen to number 7. So I pulled the number 7 cylinder, spark plug, and sure enough, it was smashed a little bit. So you can see that the ground strap was kind of smashed down into the electrode. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it doesn't look like it was actually hit with anything. My hope is that maybe it did kind of lean it out and it detonated a little bit, and that's what smashed the ground strap in. So what I'm going to do right now is, I was just going to do a compression test, but I think I'm just going to put a different plug in it, gap it to the right gap, and then put it in and go drive it and see what happens. So if the same thing happens again, then it might be something inside the cylinder, could be hurt, I don't know. I'm just going to try it. Instead of dicking around with a compression test, I'm just going to throw a new plug in it. We'll see what happens. Alright guys, so got the new spark plug in. I was just looking at the log here and of when I did that brake stand, and it was like between a 13.1 and a 13.8 air fuel at like 6,000 RPM and 170 kPa. So basically like 10 pounds of boost at like a 13.1, 13.4, almost a 14.0 air fuel, which is really bad. So that's pretty lean. That might have been when it happened. But we'll see. I'm going to try this. If not, I'll come back and do a compression test and see what else happened. I mean, unless it wasn't anything catastrophic, I don't think. So maybe worst case, I hurt the piston and there was bent valve or something weird. I don't know. We'll see. First things first, we're going to try this. Go for a drive. See what happens. So we're going to sit down and talk about what we learned today. So we took it out, had a little bit of fun with it, ripped on it a little bit. So I also forgot to mention something. When I went out today, I drove it home from work, got home, parked it out in the road, and then I went to go out with the computer and go do some stuff and tried to start it, it wouldn't start. And I noticed over, and you saw it on the other video when the thing died, for some reason it seemed like it didn't want to turn over very good, and it was having some issues. When I went out there, I decided to look at my alternator because it seemed almost like my battery wasn't charging. And sure enough, the nut that was holding the wire onto the post for the alternator had fallen off. And it was arcing on there, and it actually arced like almost halfway through the post. So I don't know how long it was like that, but the battery wasn't charging, and that's probably why it died so easy the other day. So that was the first thing. And I'm also thinking that because of that, the other day when I was doing the tuning in the previous video that I showed, I wasn't getting very much fuel on the top end when I was making the big change, and it didn't do anything. So when I hooked up that post, that was all different. So I was 15% up on fuel before it was still showing lean. When I hooked that up and took it back out, same tune, everything, did another pull the exact same way, and it was actually 5% rich at that point in the same spot. So I'm thinking that the battery voltage was just low at that time and not running the pump as much as it should have been. So it's still lean up on the top end at that same boost level, but it's not as lean as it was. Probably because I have a lot more voltage at the battery now because the fucking alternator was hooked up. So that's a good thing. Spent probably almost 2 hours driving it around today. Then I went to go pick up my friend and we went to go putz around and did some pulls and everything was jolly, but I had never actually gotten into wheel spin with the truck yet on these tunes. So once it got into wheel spin, RPM shot up really high and it's a little bit lean in the transition to power enrichment, boost enrichment. It's a little bit lean at that spot, and it's a little bit lean up top, like 6,000 RPM, because I hadn't really gotten to that point yet. So I think that's what happened. I did the brake stand, got into wheel spin, shot up to like, tires were spinning like 99 miles an hour, I think it was. That's what it was on the scan. So very high RPM, no load, and I hadn't tuned that portion yet. So it was a little bit lean. So basically, pretty sure just leaned out number 7 and probably had some pre-ignition going on, detonated, and smashed the ground strap into the plug. So I wasn't really too worried about it because it didn't look like there was any mechanical damage on the plug, like meaning that it was scored up or like it got hit with another metal chunk. So I didn't see any of that, so that's why I was pretty confident with just putting a new plug in there, gapping it right, and then trying it. So I don't think there's any damage to the piston. It was probably lean enough that it did have some detonation going on though, and that's what damaged it. So all the other 7 plugs were fine. But yeah, what did we learn here? So I think I'm gonna leave it as it is until I get a track day where I can actually take it out and do a wide open throttle run in 3rd gear to the rev limiter. So I can actually tune the thing, and I wanna start on lower boost and then work my way up to that point. Like tune fully through the range and then go up and boost a little bit so I can tune it safely. Or I could just dump a bunch of fuel in, but I want to make sure before I get a different pump that I actually have the fuel that's there. So what I'd like to do is lower the boost, tune it through the whole RPM range to the limiter, and then slowly go up until I start to run out of fuel. So I'd like to see what I can get with this pump before I change anything, but then the plan after this is to do 2 a21bravo 450s in the tank and change the whole fuel setup and then see what we can gain out of that, and then just change things periodically and see where we go from there. So that's the plan. Also learn to not get into any wheel spin until, which is kind of hard because I just wanted to go out and play with it, so I don't really care. It was close enough, so we just wanted to go play, and that's what we did. But future reference, tune it through the whole range. I'm very new to tuning, so this is the first vehicle that I've ever done any tuning with, so I'm new to the software. I hope it doesn't come off that I'm like a tuner who knows what I'm doing. I'm not trying to present myself that way. I'm just showing you guys literally my trial and error and this learning process as it goes. So I'm gonna drink this thing, get this video up, and you guys have a good night.